Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Breakthrough Innovation. With us today is Matt Mead, the innovative CTO at SPR and a technology leader who specializes in helping business executives and organizations make sense of emerging technologies like AI. With a passion for breaking down complex concepts into actionable insights, Matt has spent his career guiding companies through digital transformation, implementing AI-driven solutions, and ensuring technology aligns with real business value. Whether it's software development, back-office automation, or AI-powered sales strategies, Matt brings a practical, results-driven approach to leveraging new technologies for growth and efficiency. In today's conversation, we'll be exploring how AI is reshaping industries, the truth behind AI-driven job disruption, and real-world applications that business leaders can implement today. So if you're a senior executive, a leader looking to cut through the AI hype and understand how it can drive real business outcomes, you're in the right place. Matt, I'm excited to dive into this. I think it's good to have a little bit of the naysayer side of AI every once in a while. And I'm really excited to dive into that with you.
Thanks for having me, JL. This is going to be really fun.
Awesome. So to start off, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, sure. So I am an executive and chief technology officer, as you mentioned in the intro. Thank you. But really in my heart, I feel like I'm a developer. I grew up as a developer. I was an architect and helped run several businesses. And I think all of it sort of comes back to folks that have mentored me early in my career is what comes to mind for me. I started my career at Arthur Andersen. It was a very long time ago in the early 90s. And I had some really great mentors that taught me how to build software in a way that it's resilient and that it scales properly and it has adaptability sort of built in. But I'm sure you're familiar with Agile these days. And one of the big no-nos in Agile is like, don't gold plate things. Like, let's not over-engineer things. Let's do things the simplest way possible. So it's not that I was taught to overbuild things. I want to make sure no one throws virtual tomatoes at me. It's that I learned from very wise people who had learned over the years sort of the subtlety of where you might want to add in a little bit of flexibility and where you just want to keep it incredibly simple. And I think that sort of continued in my career over and over, having amazing opportunities to be mentored. And I think we're all sort of standing on the shoulders of giants in some respect. Right? All that wisdom was shared with me early in my career, and I think it was incredibly helpful. And so I just worked my way in consulting, been in consulting pretty much my whole career, and worked my way up from developer to an architect to helping sell and eventually getting to a leadership position.
No, that's awesome. And we're big fans of Agile at Centered and firm believers that there is no one silver bullet. I think the best coaches, which of course we are the ones that have that breadth of knowledge that help you kind of figure things out. So I love that perspective.
Yeah.
Something to dive into though, and this is maybe the juiciest part. We talk a lot about AI and all the amazing things it does and all the ways it can save us. I really like the fact that we have someone who's actually talking about the truth about AI and maybe putting a little bit of a damper on some of the hype and the AI-driven disruption. So I guess the question is AI really the next big thing? Or is this just the latest hype from the tech world?
It's both, which I've been a consultant for most of my life. So that's a typical consultant answer. It depends, JL. No, but in all seriousness, there's so much hype and excitement built up around AI, and that's the truth. And I think the hype is moving faster than the technology in some respects. That being said, since around the early 2000s and especially around 2017, we've seen these massive accelerations in AI. So there's a lot of real stuff there. And for me, I do think as someone who writes code, and that, as I mentioned, is something near and dear to my heart, I think seeing the fundamental difference where, let's think about some technologies like GPS. Like I remember the days back professionally where I'd print out MapQuest directions. I'm guessing a bunch of viewers won't even know what MapQuest is, right? That was the place to go to get driving directions, and you would print it out. And then I think I literally would highlight it with a highlighter, the turns.
I've been there.
And nowadays, right, that sounds ridiculous. Or I remember when mobile phones became a thing and we could call people anywhere on planet Earth. Well, for the most part, anywhere on planet Earth. Yeah. And then eventually get to the point where we could text people and people are sort of available 24/7. I mean, these are, and I guess where I'm going is these are massive technology changes that made such a big difference. The other one is the internet. Like I was working well before the internet was something that businesses paid attention to. And so the communication that it provides and the way that we have now these online businesses, this idea of a podcast probably would be more of a television, right? Broadcast back in the day. Yeah, or radio. Yeah. So the one thing that I do want to stress is that all these other inventions or innovations that I just mentioned are groundbreaking and really made a huge difference. And especially the internet changed life. And I think AI is similar to those in magnitude, maybe greater. And I'm not trying to hype it up here, but the computer has always just carefully followed the instructions that we create, and we create them in a very explicit way. And as folks that are around technology, this is an obvious thing, right? But I think folks outside of technology may not be aware this massive difference about generative AI specifically, right? Where it can generate things from being trained on prior data, and it's able to create code or do some level of reasoning or be able to evaluate something that it just did. It really is massively different, and I think it represents a big difference in our future. I think there are changes that we're seeing. It'd be fun to talk about time permitting, but the future for sure is going to be impacted in a huge way. The biggest change I think I'll see in my professional career, probably my lifetime, will be generative AI. All that being said, though, GL, sort of bringing it back to the real, I think right now there are a lot of things that are being hyped to the point where, you know, if you really look at the value some things provide today, there's a lot of hype there wrapped around it.
Well, and you mentioned cell phones, and like history is littered with failed cell phone concepts, right? Like I remember my first cell phone and being so excited I could play Snake on the little screen. Yeah, today it's a very different thing, you know, flip phones, all this other stuff. So I think to some of what you're saying, AI is going to go through that same process of spinning up a whole bunch of different ideas, seeing what sticks, and what doesn't is going to kind of fall by the wayside of history,
Right.
and to some extent get forgotten.
Yes. I think that's a really good point.
So you also talk a little bit about the impact on people's jobs with AI, that job disruption. Where do you see that happening? And where do people have some opportunity to maybe make some big jumps forward without necessarily having to hire a bunch of people?
Sure. You know, I will say, shout out to the World Economic Forum. I don't work with them, but they put out a jobs report. And I don't know, JL, if you've had a chance to look at it, the 2025 jobs report. It's a 200-page PDF. It's free. It's on the internet. You can just Google it. I'm going to lean on a lot of their research on jobs because this is such a complex place where so much goes into this. Number one, experts are predicting that there will be far more jobs created than there will be jobs removed. So I think all of us can sort of take a deep breath, exhale, and not worry too much about AI and the robots coming to get us. That being said, if you think back to the early days of the personal computer, there were lots of jobs that were eliminated. And there were a lot of jobs eliminated in the Industrial Revolution, right? Every time we have these leaps in innovation and new technology available, it will obviously eliminate jobs. So there are a lot of jobs, but they're probably jobs that have a lot of mundane tasks and not necessarily a ton of skills required in that mundane task. And again, I'm not trying to be judgmental or look down on anyone's job, but I think those are the types of jobs that are potentially in jeopardy, probably almost for sure in jeopardy. And I think it's the jobs where people are staying tech savvy and they're continuing to understand and know how to work with technology. I think those are the types of jobs that will be safe. And I'll give you a bit of an analogy. I think folks in jobs that, for example, learn how to use Excel and maybe do a little bit of create formulas and maybe do a little bit of programming essentially in Excel. If you're that type of person and you're taking a tool and making it even more productive for you, that's the sort of tech savviness that I think it's different. But if you apply that same sort of thinking to AI, those people will be extremely successful. And I was just going to say, I think for folks that are consider themselves technologists, JL, I think learning aspects of AI as a technologist, how can I work with it? How can I leverage it? How can I deploy it? Those sorts of people are going to be successful in the future. They're going to have a lot of job security. And I think people that know how to, we were just talking about, use AI in their non-tech jobs will be successful. So a lot of curiosity and adaptability is where we're going to see the people keeping their jobs versus where people are going to find themselves maybe having to reskill in order to find a new job.
We interviewed Swati Young a little while ago, so maybe 3 or 4 episodes before this one. And the way she said it is AI is not coming for your job, but the people who know how to use AI absolutely are. So I think there's something into that, right? Like,
Absolutely. Yes.
one of the people that learn how to use it, and you're going to be one of the people that are going to move forward. To be completely honest, from my role, like running Centered, I could not do it at the scale we do it without AI helping in a wide variety of ways.
Yes.
I think there's a lot to that. Now,
Absolutely.
you're talking about a big impact coming. What are the industries that are going to see that impact? Which ones already have, actually?
Yeah. So I would say we're seeing industries showing curiosity and starting to create wins in just about every industry. But again, that's sort of a Weasley consulting answer, and that's no good. That doesn't work on this show, JL. So I think we're seeing a lot with biomedical. We're seeing a lot where bio and like IoT are coming together to create medical devices, whether they're a bit more consumer related, like a smart ring, that has some sort of approval within the health space, or maybe it's even more medical equipment that's looking to be able to create even more value, do even more with AI. So biomedical is one. We're seeing a lot in manufacturing as well. I would say manufacturing is a place where there's been a lot of tech leverage, and we're seeing a lot more there. But also, maybe a bit surprisingly, is insurance and fintech is also a place where we're also seeing quite a bit happening. But as I name those four, I don't want to necessarily paint a picture. That's something where I'm seeing a lot of movement. And maybe biotech is the one outlier where there's so much investment and stuff happening there. But I think it's really across all industries where we're seeing folks making incremental changes right now that we think are going to lead to some huge changes down the road.
Well, and it makes sense. Like you mentioned, pharmaceuticals, biosciences, like anywhere where you can set something up to run a large number of experiments, right, fast, like you're going to have a huge amount of value out of AI. And I think that's a great place for that to happen.
That is so true. And, JL, I was just listening to a podcast the other day, and this is so terrible because I can't remember the source, but someone was talking about the secret to business is not thinking of the one idea that is the idea that propels your company. The secret to business is coming up with a bunch of bad ideas, a really long laundry list, and cranking through them and having the ability as a business to experiment. I think you just said the word, you made me think about this, and find the gem, find that needle in the haystack, because if it was easy to just think of the one brilliant idea, we'd all have thought about it. So that's a really, really good point.
Well, and when you think about design thinking, they talk about like the double diamond, all the other stuff, but like the general concept behind it is this whole faucet filter kind of methodology, like get the ideas out, filter them down, get the ideas out, filter them down. And I think AI has the potential to make that faster, easier, more fun. And I think a lot of organizations can take advantage of that.
Yeah. If we have time, JL, one other thing I'd throw in, I grew up as a technologist. It feels wrong to not throw this in as far as what industries are being impacted. I think what's happening with AI, generative AI, writing code and being able to understand code and the way that software development is changing is also something that I feel like we should call out. I think today, I've heard people talk about a 20% increase in productivity for a given developer. So that would mean then, say, for example, you got 5 developers. Well, maybe now I could do what I would have done with 5, I can now do with 4 because I got a 20% savings. Or maybe you can create even more value and stickiness, and not let go of your people. But that's something that's interesting. And I think we're going to see more of that in the future. And I think we're already seeing simplistic programming type exercises like a simple website for a small business. I think we're already seeing that type of work has sort of been moving to templates, and now it's moving to generative AI, creating those websites. I think if someone had a job doing that sort of simple type programming, that's in jeopardy, that sort of job. And I think now we're seeing these AI tools trying to chip away at maybe what some of the more complex enterprise development that consulting firms like we do at SPR. But that's a little bit of a longer road. We could talk all day about that, but I just wanted to throw that in there because I think that's a biggie, and I think it catches a lot of headlines.
So AI is not going to take over the world, but it's going to change it. What's the takeaway you think our listeners need from today?
You know what I would say is that there's commercial off the shelf tools, JL, and I've heard you talk about those in the past. And then there's custom tools that we could build in life. I think every single business should be aggressively keeping track because they're coming out of people's garages and they're coming fast and they're probably going to disappear, some of them pretty fast. But you should be tracking technologies that can help you be more productive and create greater value in your business. I think if you're not doing that, you should be doing that aggressively today. And then I think second, I think for businesses that have a unique business proposition, I think they should be looking at custom AI. And there's a bunch of ways to do it. There's low code, no code solutions where you don't need a bunch of technologists to do it. You can it's self-service somewhat. Then there's all the way a spectrum, of course, and there's places where it would take a lot of custom development work in the AI space. But I think those are the two places you need to look. The custom stuff is not inexpensive. So I'm trying to caveat it saying that's for a lot of the bigger businesses. But if anyone is out there and you're not aggressively pursuing ways that you could be more productive individually and as an organization, I think you are falling behind. And I guess if I was going to get one message out, it'd be that just hop on it. It's actually fun, I think. So it's not a dreadful thing. It's a fun thing.
I agree. I think there's a lot to learn there, a lot of fun to be had. Matt, this has been fantastic. If anyone's looking to connect with you, work with you or SPR, what's the best way to get in touch?
Yeah, probably the best way to get in touch with me would be Carrier Pigeon. No, just kidding. LinkedIn would be the best place to find me. And I'm at Matthew T. Mead on LinkedIn. And I'd love to collaborate or continue this conversation with anyone. And this has been really fun, JL. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, no, I agree. This has been fantastic. I've really enjoyed it. And I want to thank you for being here. I also want to thank everyone who's been listening all the way to the end. Hopefully you're all already leaving a review and rating our episode, 5 stars, of course. But I also hope that you're going to be able to share this episode, share Matt's experience and expose SPR to the world a little bit more by passing some of this wisdom on to people coworkers, friends, family, you name it, so we can scale the impact that Matt has. I would also encourage everyone to take a moment, think through what you just heard, pull out one actionable insight, apply it, and let us know how it goes, because we'd love to hear about personal growth, corporate growth, all of that. That said, Matt, thank you so much for your time. This has been fantastic. Everyone who's here listening to the end, thank you as well. And we'll see you all next time on Breakthrough Innovation.
Well,